This is the best way to learn Rubik's Cube algorithms that you probably don't know. We've all tried to learn Rubik's Cube algorithms, and often they are hard to learn and even harder to remember and use in solves. But with the 3 steps that I'll be discussing in this video, you'll be able to easily and effectively learn any algorithms you want. I've spent many hundreds of hours learning hundreds if not thousands of algorithms using these 3 simple steps. Make sure to pay attention to all 3 steps as they are all equally important and work together to help you easily and effectively learn algorithms. So let's get into it. The first step to learning an algorithm is to get it in your head. This involves learning the actual moves of the algorithm enough to be able to do it slowly. And I have a few tips for this. I recommend looking at what's called the triggers of an algorithm, which are groups of moves like RU, R', U', or R', F, R, F'. These and other common triggers are found in multiple different algorithms, which is really helpful. For example, this case, which is a Y perm, and this case, which is a T perm, have very similar triggers, just in different orders. Triggers help break the algorithms up into much smaller chunks, which actually makes them much easier to learn. Another thing that can help with getting the algorithm in your head is actually to learn the finger tricks. And this might seem a bit counterintuitive because it's learning another thing, but it actually makes knowing what the next move is much easier. If you've learned how to finger trick the algorithm properly, then the next move will always feel obvious and natural. There are YouTube videos online of people going through how they finger trick more common algorithm sets like OLL or PLL, or you can ask other cubers either in person or online how to finger trick less common algorithm sets. Another tip that I have which will help out with step 1, but also 2 and 3, is something called a hook. That's not a backwards arrow, by the way, it's a hook. Please compliment my drawing skills in the comments. A hook pretty much just helps you know how the algorithm starts off. You can look at sort of a visual cue, like a block or some opposite pieces, and then remember what the first few moves of the algorithm do to those pieces. And this just really helps you get started. So for example, with this R perm, I remember this block in the front left, and I remember that the first 3 moves are going to insert that block into here in the front right slot. And from there, it is much easier to remember the rest of the algorithm. So step 1 was just to get the algorithm into your head, using triggers and by learning the finger tricks. And this step will take a bit of time, but as you learn more algorithms with more triggers, it will become much easier and faster. And that brings us to step 2, which is to get the algorithms in your fingers. This is actually the most overlooked step, even though it's really important. In order to get faster and more consistent with your algorithms, you have to get them into the muscle memory of your fingers. For those who don't know, muscle memory is the ability to reproduce a frequent movement without conscious thought acquired as a result of frequent repetition of that movement. And I'll explain a bit more about that later, but the first step is to download an app called Anki off of app.ankiweb.net. Anki is a flashcard program that makes use of something called spaced repetition, and I'll talk more about that shortly, but it's the main reason that Anki is so good. When you first open up Anki, you will see this homepage with your decks in the middle. You can click create deck to, create a deck, and you have different decks for different algorithm sets. Or you can even just have decks for learning random stuff like at school or languages. Anki is just really good for learning. You can click on add up the top here to add a flashcard for whatever algorithm you are learning. Make sure you click here and select the right deck that you want to put the card in, and then you can put the algorithm on the back of the card right here. On the front of the card, you can put whatever helps you recognize the case. So if you're learning PLL, you might want to put either a picture of a cube with that PLL, or a sort of top-down version of the cube like this, or maybe even just the letter of the case. Just whatever works for you. When I'm learning algorithms for blindfolded, I just put the letters that the algorithm is for on the front of the card, and that helps me recognize it. And that's because that's what I actually get in the solve, but for normal sided solving, you actually get to see the cube, so it's probably a better idea to have like a visual cube that you can see for that. Now you can click add and put in another algorithm, or you can go back to the home page. When you click on the deck for the algorithms that you are learning, it will show you whatever you put on the front of the flashcard. And then you try and do the algorithm, and once you've tried to do that, then you press spacebar. And there's a few different buttons that come up down the bottom. And you press a different one depending on how easy you found it to do the algorithm. If you forgot the algorithm, which is totally okay at this stage, then make sure to press the buttons over on the left saying it was more difficult. And if you got it super easily, then I wouldn't recommend pressing the one all the way on the right, but the one just in from that. and this is for something called spaced repetition. And spaced repetition is the main reason why Anki is so good and effective for learning algorithms. And anything else really. Spaced repetition is when the flashcards appear not a random amount, but a specific amount that's ideal for learning. At the start, it gives you the flashcard quite a lot, in order to get it ingrained into your muscle memory. But as you get more and more used to it and start pressing the easier buttons, then it gives you less, because you don't need to review them as much. And this is amazing for learning anything, especially Rubik's Cube algorithms. And remember, the whole goal of this step is to get the transition from seeing the case into doing it out of the muscle memory of your fingers, trying to get that to be as quick and as flawless as possible. But can you guess what the third step to learning an algorithm is? Well, I'll let you know in 10 seconds after I tell you about Daily Puzzles. Daily Puzzles has amazing prices, a large range of products, and awesome customer service. And you can get a further 5% off using code SWIFTCUBING. So if you're looking to buy some cubes, Daily Puzzles is where it's at. Well, the third step to learning an algorithm is to get it in your solves. But as you may already know, when you get a recently learned algorithm in a solve, it's almost impossible to perform it flawlessly. And when you do get a case that you recently learned a new algorithm for, it's very easy to accidentally revert to old habits that are slower. And even after training the algorithm in Anki, it's very easy to get it in the pressure of a solve and forget it, or just take forever to try and remember it. And it's not fun getting slow solves, so often we revert back to our old habits. But don't worry, this happens to everyone. It's just really important that you do try and do the new algorithm that you've learnt, instead of reverting back to old habits, because this will make you faster in the long run as you get the case more and more and get more familiar with using it in a solve. And this might seem tough, but it is made easier by the hook that you learnt back in step 1 and all the training that you did in step 2. But it is worth it, trust me. Even if your solves are a bit slower in the short term, over time they'll get much faster than where you previously were. And with these 3 steps and the tips included inside them, I'm sure that you'll be able to conquer the algorithms that you want to learn. But sometimes when you get into an official competition, the pressure and nerves can just delete newly learned algorithms from your brain. But there has to be a way to stop this. Well, you address this by dealing with the pressure and nerves of competing officially, which I have a video about, so make sure to check it out. Other than that, have a good day and see ya.